Hi, my name is Linda Witt, and I had the privilege of being a coach and teacher at the laboratory school on the campus of University of Northern Colorado in the late 70s through 2000, so right at 20 years. I got to know Greg through my teaching position and then coaching, because he was in the middle school, high school as an educator, but then coached baseball as well.
Well, good evening. I'm Ray Schillert, member of the University Lab School from 1984 to 2000. And first person I met at the lab school was Greg Pierson. He was kind of one of the Mount Rushmore members. He and Rich Emerson and John Hunt were the three I talked to the most, and convinced a 30-year-old guy with a little 5-year-old and a 4-month-old to come out from Iowa to Colorado. And we've been here since then, so I guess whatever he said worked.
All right, my name's Carol Riggs, and I started with the lab school when we were on campus. I was hired as a kindergarten teacher, and I was the first faculty rep on the Board of Governors, the first Board of Governors, and we knew we had to hire a new director. So applications were sent out, or an RFP for applications, and we got numerous applications, one of which was from Greg Pierson. And all of a sudden, you would have thought my classroom was the watering hole for the whole faculty and staff, because there would be a line out my door, and anytime I had a break from the kindergartners, there'd be somebody in my room telling me how much I should help hire this man, Greg Pierson. I'd never met him, didn't know him. But with that many people who had worked with him and under him and for him, I thought, we can't go wrong. And I was 100% validated after he first started and got us moved into the new building, and was just an incredible leader for everybody when we moved here.
So Greg helped a great deal in my growth as a 30-year-old. He gave me a lot of freedom, which allowed me to be creative, make a lot of mistakes. Then he had my back to bring me back into reality, and so that worked. It worked great for the kids. I think that's one of the things that I admired about Greg, is that he would often think of the kids first, kids and parents and their families, and then the teachers, and then himself he was always last. And so it was pretty obvious he wasn't there to gain notoriety or fame or glory, but was really there to help kids.
He's always made decisions that are immediately best for the learner, immediately best for the institution he's working with, but he's also made those decisions for the school long term and in the future. That is also pretty unique. Greg's success is really about building relationships, and he still has contact with a lot of his baseball players that he coached over the years, and 40 years ago now. They won the state championship in '82, and he still has contact with a lot of those young men. Well, they're not so young anymore, but remains the contact with those players, and the relationships he's built with those players are lifelong. Built amazing relationships with colleagues, teaching colleagues and administrative colleagues. He's respected around the state as an innovator and leader in education, and he'll be the first one to tell you, no, it wasn't me. It's all of you. But he has a gift of listening and eclectically pulling together ideas, visions, perspectives, and then understanding an overall mission for a school or a department. Then he can fine-tune and direct, which is a pretty unique set of skills. So building those relationships along the way is, I think, one of his strengths. He's always been a fun guy to be around. Always brought the humor, always brought the joy. I think I've seen him over the years angry a couple times, and I know there's a lot, but it was rare. He was always joyful, always energetic. He brought the joy and humor, and he's quite a practical joker. I know that he and Mark Anderson in the middle school had quite a bit of fun together, and you got to make your own fun. It's too much hard work not to, and Greg was always awesome at that. So
it was his turn to evaluate me as a teacher. I was still a kindergarten teacher, and he would set up time to come in and observe me. And I never did a dog and pony show. It was just whatever I did on a normal day is what he was going to see. But I'd still get sweat going down my back, and he wouldn't come. And this happened twice. And I'd go and find out. And at that time, he was the administrator for the high school. And some high school kid had done something stupid, and he had to deal with it. And so he wouldn't come. And so I finally went in and said, you know, Greg, for the sake of you and the high school, let's not set up a time. Just come in anytime you want, because you're not going to see anything different if we schedule it or if you just walk in. And in the end, that was probably the most accurate evaluation I ever got, because not only did he pick up on times he would just walk in to ask a question or drop something on my desk, because at the time my daughter was Stuco president, but he took in other things, like the night I did the kindergarten parent orientation, or helping out at the carnival, things like that were all included in my evaluation. And it wasn't just on how I acted as an instructor, it was how I acted as a total member of the university school's faculty.
So we didn't have the best facilities at university schools there on the campus, but it was one that allowed us to be flexible and creative, and as I said, to work with kids. And Greg once told me I was one of the most innovative teachers he ever had under him, and I took that as a compliment, but I also took that as a statement to him about him and what he allowed me to do. He allowed me to try new things and not worry about failing. I mean, in fact, failing was kind of something I did well, but that meant I was also trying new things, and those new things allowed the kids to really explore and to ask questions, and that was probably his strength, is that he was always there asking me questions and saying, no, you should have done this, or you should have did that, but here's what worked, and maybe here's something you want to think about. And so that made it easy as a faculty member to work together. We had a collective of very talented people. It's not often easy to coach the most talented team, but he was able to do it and do it well, and inspired us to even do greater things together. And that was probably the biggest thing, is we did things together.
So it was an incredibly special place. And the talent of that staff, oh my gosh, was over the top. And I didn't realize that until I left, because that's all I knew. Well, we started to get some rumblings of the existence of the school being threatened. And the lab school was costing the university about $1 million a year. But yeah, Greg was in an administrative role by then. And as we were getting more inclination that the laboratory school was going to close, he just seemed to ramp it up. And we're not going to leave, we're not going to dissolve, so what's next and how do we get there? A lot of teachers stayed because of what Greg's leadership provided in encouragement, in positivity. He helped secure the ground that this building is sitting on. I mean, how's somebody do that? You know, how does somebody do so many things he did? But yeah, he led the charge, and he had an army with him. but he led the charge.
And then, of course, what he did to help establish the transition between the lab school and university schools was critical to what we have here today. And then he just seems to, it's kind of like the old Timex watch. He just keeps on ticking, and he ticks for the Bulldogs.
Greg, directly to you, thank you so much for the years of your dedication, your passion. Thank you for the long-term overall vision, and thank you for helping me be a better professional. I appreciate everything you did for me as an individual, as well as a developing coach and educator. Yeah, you've made an impact.
The coolest thing, one of the personal thing is we moved to town. As I said, there was just 4 of us, and didn't have a whole lot of extra money. He shows up with about 6 bags full of groceries and says, let me help you guys get you started. So as a young family, that was something that he and his wife Judy and his 2 daughters helped with, and we really appreciated that and been able to pay that forward since. So
I truly appreciate Greg for your ability to interact with anybody at any place they are in their life. You were extremely supportive to me when my husband died. I remember you coming over to the house with Linda that same morning that he had died, and then making the ability for any staff member to be at his service by closing the school a couple hours early. And I really feel like that was a demonstration on how you really felt that we were all family and you were there to take care of us. And that has stuck in my mind, and I truly appreciate you being there and supporting. You even gave teachers relief if they needed to leave their classroom or come over, kind of thing. So thank you for being there at a very difficult time in my life.
But Greg is definitely his face belongs on the Mount Rushmore of Bulldogs, and for that I'm eternally grateful for what you did for my career and what you did for my family. So thank you, and go Bulldogs.